Welcome to yet another live episode, Pound for Pound Box Report. Sorry for the delay in terms of the start time. I am your host, Michael. Joining me, Daniel from the Inscriber and For Boxing News. What's going on, Daniel?
What's going on, ladies and gentlemen?
Indeed. For those who wonder where Gail is, again, because we're recording this live midweek, her schedule is usually busy this time of the week. Hopefully, I believe she's listening live once again. Hopefully, we can get her back next week. That just depends on when we're going to start. Hopefully, we'll have this show early next week. For those who are new to Pound for Pound Box Report, Pound for Pound Box Report, live YouTube show podcast blogs, site, etc., talking all things boxing. The modern wisdom when boxing is good, we will talk about it. When it's bad, we will talk about it. Bottom line is, if it concerns the sweet science, it will get discussed. You want to find out any and all information regarding Pound for Pound Boxing Report, the site is the place to go to, p4pboxingreport.com. If you wish to email us with any comments or questions, etc., you can do so p4pboxing at p4pboxingreport.com. On the site, you will find links to where to catch us all over social media, the links to the YouTube channel, links to the Facebook, Twitter, IG page, also links to where to find us all over the podcast realm, be it Anchor, be it be it Spotify, be it uh, uh, um, Apple Podcast. Um, Wherever you listen to your favorite podcast, you should be able to find Pound for Pound Box Report. And if you wish to donate, got a Cash Me PayPal donation links. Let donation be the best nation. Wouldn't matter to us. $1, $2, $5. If you have some spare change on hand, if you wish to contribute, we will be grateful. Last but certainly not least, if you go to the site, please check out the link to the fitness page, Body BODI, formerly known as Beachbody on Demand. Um, Body has programs for any and all suitable fitness growth goals and interests. If you're looking for weightlifting, lifting to lift weights, check out programs like Body Beast, Lift 4, Lift More. If you're looking for CrossFit style, hardcore functioning type of workouts, check out programs like 645, 6 weeks of the work, chop wood, carry water. The P90X series are there, 1, 2, and 3. If you're looking for a boxing specific program, please check out 10 Rounds. That is a 6 week program. 3 days a week of boxing based cardio, 2 days a week of weightlifting. I believe Body still has the 50% off sale going on right now for first time subscribers. Um, and throughout the year, they have a free 14-day trial that runs, and that is if you take advantage, you get access to any and all programs on Body, including the sample program of the new Dig Deeper weightlifting program that's set to drop later on this year. Let's get things going by recapping what took place this past weekend. And let's start with the ladies, Daniel. Natasha Jonas making the first defense of her IBF welterweight title against Mikaela Mayer. Mayer, former unified champion at 130 pounds, slowly made the transition up to 147. They fought in Jonas's hometown of Liverpool, England. Very exciting fight, right? A bit surprised that it evolved into the war that it did. Um, it trended on boxing social media, on boxing Twitter, right? Jonas ended up getting the decision, but a lot of people felt that Mayer had did enough to get the win. I had Mayer up by 2 points on my personal card. Right, and who did you have winning at the end of the day?
This was a surprisingly good fight, and it showed me that Mayer. It was going to be a similar story to what I mentioned last week when it came to Terry Harper, where, like I said, she's more comfortable being at 154. Harper Mayer looks to be very comfortable at 147, and it took her a couple of rounds to get in, Like she did well in the first two rounds, but then Natasha Jonas picked up the pace in rounds three or four, and started doing body work in those a little bit in those rounds between the first and second. But Mayer started adjusting, started landing shots at her distance, and which caused Jonas to step up again and make it the firefight that it was. And you got to give credit to both ladies. Both ladies showed grit, both ladies showed skill, and both ladies showed heart. And taking the combinations that they were taking and going toe to toe when they did, but at the same time, not letting the crowds dictate how they felt when it came to the fight. They knew that what they had to do. They knew what they needed to do to win. I personally had it same as Mayor 96, 94, and but I'm not mad. I'm not as mad as I normally would be because this fight was close enough where you can actually make the case for it, even though it had a little bit of a taste of home cooking for the UK. But Jonas did show a lot of grit, a lot of heart, especially in the middle rounds where she you can say she edged it out. But to me, Mayer did a lot of better work, especially in the later rounds. She was landing combinations to the head and she was landing combinations to the body, and she wasn't being phased by Jonas's offense coming in. So, like, I had Mayer winning, but luckily, it wasn't the horrendous normal UK home cooking cards that we've seen before. It was at least respectable in the scorecards, and there's a rematch clause on this. I know Jonas put it in there. Hopefully, Mayer can exercise it because this fight deserves a rematch.
Here's the thing about that. There's a rematch clause on Jonas' behalf if she lost. There's not a rematch clause from Mayer's perspective, right? So the question is, will we see this again? As you noted, Mayer called for them to do it one more time. The ESPN folks who was doing the fight, Timothy Bradley, he wants to see that they was calling for a rematch. But Jonas, who said afterwards that this is probably her last year in boxing, during the official post-fight news conference, um, she threw the name Jessica McCaskill out there and said she has an eye on fighting her as well, while boxing fans and whatnot want to see them go see Jonas and Mayer do it again. Will Jonas go another route, particularly if that route involves McCaskill uh, for big money, if that route involves the facing the winner of the recently announced bout between WBO champion Sandy Ryan, who's going to fight Terry Harper uh, March 24th. Uh, while the trend is for Jonas and Mayer to do it again, will we see it?
That's the tricky part when it comes on Jonas's part. When she makes that announcement that it was the last year, normally that's the year, and when you're in the level of fighter that Jonas is, with the pedigree that she has, that's normally then the year where you want cash out fights. And McCaskill is a cash out fight for in the sense in the division, and a good home and a fight with Terry Harper would be interesting as a domestic fight. What it shows me is mainly is that Jonas may not want to see. She wants the big money, and she may not want to be like one of the old fighters that gets taken out by the young gun. Even though, like I said, Mayer's not that much younger than Jonas. But I wouldn't be surprised if she goes the McCaskill route. But I also wouldn't be surprised if Top Rank sees this, sees where it's going, and they decide to try to go after McCaskill if she didn't want to get the fight with Jonas, because then that immediately takes a big money fight away from Jonas. And then Jonas may have to do the Harper fight. And if that comes in early enough where she can do one last fight, then you can do late in the year the rematch with Mayer. There's enough merit for this to be a rematch, but it's also understanding why Jonas would probably not want to do the rematch, even though Mayer has deserved it.
Let's move from Liverpool, England to Osaka, Japan. Doubleheader that took place um, over there. I covered the card for Three Kings Boxing. Please check out Three Kings Boxing, your source for pure, unadulterated boxing information. Big shout out to the Three Kings Boxing staff and crew. 2K, aka Project A Boxing Talk, the man behind Three Kings. Bo, senior writer, head of media relations. You heard him on the show numerous times over the years. Bakari, fellow senior writer. I'm a senior writer over there. Red, who's our editor, and all the contributors behind the scenes. The main event was turned out to be a fantastic fight between Kenshiro, Teraji, and former WBA champion at 108 pounds, Carlos Canizales. Want to touch briefly on the undercard bout. Um, Artem Dalakian came into the bout, the oldest of the flyweight champions, the longest reigning of the flyweight champions. He held the WBA belt since 2018, beating Brian Valoria uh, back in February 2018, I believe it was. He defended the belt against mandatory challenger um, Seigo Yuri Akui, and Akui got the decision, unanimous decision. A lot of people on boxing Twitter who was up like myself watching the contest felt that Dalakian, excuse me, deserved the nod. I personally did not think so because while Dalakian during the fight did a lot of moving, I didn't see a lot of effective. I didn't see him being effective. He was throwing punches, but he wasn't landing much of anything. He fought defensive the whole night, in my opinion, and I felt that Akui, though he didn't do much either, he was the aggressor. He set the tone, and he was the fresher fighter in the end. As during the championship rounds, Dalakian was clearly the more fatigued fighter, the more he was the faded fighter, and this may be against the grain, but I felt that Akui deserved the nod. Will we probably see a rematch? No, but I just wanted to give my 2 cents on that. Let's move towards to the main event. Unified champion um, Kenshiro. His last bout was, of course, the stoppage over Hecky Butler. Fought Carlos Canizales, like I said, former WBA champion. A lot of people haven't heard or seen much of him since his surprising 6 round stoppage to Esteban Bermudez a few years back. But I felt that fight was that wasn't an indication of how good Canizales is, and he showed how good he was in this fight. Daniel uh, Canizales came out firing from the start. Uh, Kenshiro put him down in the second round, but Canizales came back, put Kenshiro down towards the end of round 3. Every time it seemed like Kenshiro was going to separate himself, Canizales would storm back. Uh, not much separating the two men um, throughout the bout. It turned quickly into an absolute war. Clear candidate for fight of the year. Kenshiro ended up winning by majority decision. A lot of people afterwards felt because of how Kenshiro clearly faded, and we now know that he was dealing with a injured right hand, which caused him not to throw that right hand at all. in the championship rounds. A lot of people felt that Canizales won. I felt it could have went either way. Uh, I wouldn't be mad at a draw. I wouldn't be mad at 1 point, 2 points in the direction of either fighter. That's basically what the scorecards was down the line. Fantastic fight. Was it a robbery that people called it, think, or claiming it was? Absolutely not. But in the end, um, between the mayor, the Jonas Mayor fight, and this contest, a terrific start to 2024 boxing wise.
Yeah, folks, we have the first candidate for Fight of the Year in 2024. This was an excellent fight from round one up to round 10. I'll go over the reason why in a little bit. But Canizales came out swinging. He knew he had to get the momentum early. And interesting enough, in the second round was when Kenshiro got his first knockdown. Now, it was a weird shot. I think he landed right on top of the head of Canizales. So you saw delayed reaction. And then standing there, and then his legs going in there. It wound up him grabbing Kenshiro, and they both wound up falling down. And luckily, like I said, for Canizales, his legs recovered well enough where he survived the round. But then said he came out guns blazing, especially late in round three, and was able to get that knockdown. That evened out, erased the points from the round two. And even though it's a flash knockdown, you could tell that punch caught Kenshiro's attention. And from then on, it was a perfect ebb and flow. If it was a situation where Kenshiro felt like he was starting to pull away, Canizales came storming back. Whenever it looked like Canizales was going to take over, Kenshiro landed his jabs and combinations to push it back. And it was a great back and forth. You could tell both guys were hungry from up to round 10. And then Kenshiro decided that he wanted to become a spin class instructor and got on his bike for the last two rounds. Blatantly get on his bike for the last two rounds, in the championship rounds. And that itself, granted, yeah, we could talk about the injury, but that in itself, the way that fight ended, those last two rounds, and the way the scorecards came out, I normally expect blatant home cooking from the UK. This is why I said I wasn't that particular mad at how the Jones Mayer fight turned out because it wasn't blatant, but I expect blatant. I don't expect that type of home cooking that I saw in Japan. Because you can even see in Kenshiro's eyes when they announced him as the winner, look at his face. He knows he didn't win that fight. He knows that he pretty much gave away those last two rounds. He shouldn't have won that fight. And I feel bad for them, for Canizales, because he gave a great performance. And they should have at least just had a draw. If you were not going to give him the victory, you should at least given him a draw. Especially with the way those last two rounds ended, because after round 10, it was a great fight. And like I said, and then the Kenshiro decided, hey, I'm going to teach spin class for the last two rounds. Though that was disappointing, but it doesn't negate the great action that we got in the first 10 rounds. This is still the first candidate for Fight of the Year. I don't know if we'll do this again because it might be time for Kenshiro to move up once again at this stage, but I like with Mayer and Jonas, I want to see this again. Canizales deserves another shot.
Okay, for those who like, oh, because of the negativity uh, of of the champ in the last two rounds, like, oh, there's no way he won that fight again. Um, I would push back against it. Um, I can make a personal argument giving him the fight by again a point, uh, 2 points. The draw card, I wasn't mad at that at all. Um, I believe that's what I had it on my personal scorecard. But to be at like this is such an egregious decision, no, no, no. Will it happen again? I don't know. Canizales came in the mandatory contender. In theory, the WBA could order them to run it back, but I'm not sure. Uh, Kenshiro, he's long wanted a fight with Jonathan Gonzalez, who is the WBO champion. He could get that next, or Kenshiro has also talked about moving up to flyweight. That could be another route. I wouldn't be surprised if that would happen by the end of this year. How would he fare at flyweight? Uh, it depends. It depends. Bam Rodriguez is unified champion there now. He's soon to. If he was to stay around at 112, I'd say no because you ask me right now. I think Bam Rodriguez beats Kenshiro, right? Sonny Edwards is still around. A possible fight between Kenshiro and Sonny at 112. I don't know. I may favor Sonny in that. Um, But Kenshiro Teraji, very, very good fighter at 108, has had a distinguished reign. We will see where he goes from here. Let's move on to the news because it's going to be a very, very short episode. Not many fights to recap, and there's not that many fights to preview for the upcoming weekend. The saga of one Ryan Garcia, Daniel. Who is he going to fight next? More importantly, who does he want to fight? He moves around. Oh, I want to fight with Haney, only to say, no, no, not that. Then he says he wants to fight with Rolly. Then he says, no, that's not going to happen. Now we hearing, as of a few hours before this show, before this recording, that Golden Boy are close to finalizing a fight between Ryan and Rolly for Rolly's belt at 140 pounds. What do you make of all of this? Is this really at the end of the day just an inside squabble between Ryan Garcia and Golden Boy?
That's part of it. That's part of it. Because remember, when we mentioned last week when they came to it, it was Golden Boy who was saying that they were getting finalized between Ryan and Jose Ramirez, who they, like I said, who they recently signed. And I said, I understand why. So you want to give, like, you signing a pretty big fight, and Ryan is one of the cash cows. And when it came to the fight with Haney, I understood where you were coming from in one area, trying to make the fight, and from a financial and business standpoint, Ryan trying to get a belt first in order to get a fight with Haney and make it a unification. It does make business sense, and that's where we're at because we have to remember Ryan was all set. Haney to was fully engaged to try to fight Haney until he decided to just go on the jog with Floyd Mayweather, and Floyd got in his ear, suggested the Rolly fight, who is still with Kent Mayweather, and that's where it broke down from there. This is in many ways, yeah, a internal squabble between Golden Boy and Ryan. You can tell that Ryan wants a bit more control over his career, and Golden Boy, because they don't have that many cash cows right now. We don't know how, like I said, Virgil right now is getting back up in his speed of 154. Xanfer, you had to deal with Xanfer when it comes to Munguia, and a lot of their young guys are not ready yet. Are not ready to really take that shot of saying, "I'm gonna be the money guy. I'm gonna be the guy that brings in the money for Golden Boy." So you have this little chess match where you sign people to get fights with Ryan Garcia, but at the same time, now Ryan Garcia wants to make moves in other directions. It should it should be interesting because the social media aspect of it was enticing because before this, Rolly Romero put out a poster of him and Isaac Cruz and calling out Ryan saying like, "Oh, Princess Garcia doesn't want to fight, so they try to make a fight with him and Isaac Cruz." And then they realized that nobody wants to see Rolly versus Isaac Cruz. And then that brings it back to Ryan. It's still going to be an easy fight for Ryan to make. It's pretty much low hanging fruit to get a belt. You just have to see now what are going to be the next steps after this fight. Should this be finalized? Because it wouldn't be surprising if Floyd decides if this fight gets made under press conferences in the lead up to getting Ryan Zero again into some more discord between Ryan and Golden Boy.
We will certainly keep you abreast with any additional information on the matter. Again, um, word on these boxing streets is that Golden Boy is close to finalizing a fight between Ryan Garcia and Rolly Romero. The fight is being targeted for late March, excuse me. Let's get to some fights here that's coming up this weekend. Like I said, there's not much news, limited number of fights to recap. So let's get to breaking down some of these fights that's taking place this weekend. Let's focus, excuse me, on the 27th Golden Boy card, promoted card. It's going to be airing live. It's going to air live on the zone from Phoenix, Arizona. The main event is John Ryder versus Jaime Munguia. But let's focus on a couple of undercard fights, Daniel. Uh, Gabriela Fundora certainly made a splash in 2023. At the beginning of last year, she was known mainly as the little brother of Sebastian Fundora, right? But by the end of the year, she become a world champion, IBF flyweight champion, and is now thought to be an emerging force in women's boxing, particularly in the lower weight divisions. She's going to fight Christina Cruz. Cruz is undefeated, but this is a big step up in class for the challenger. No offense to Cruz, but given what we've seen of Gabriela Fundora, I think that this is a little more than a showcase bout for the champion, given Fundora's length, given her reach. She intimidates a lot of opponents the moment she steps in that ring. And I think she's going to do that here. I've seen nothing from Fundora. Excuse me, I've seen nothing from Cruz that suggests that she's going to give the champion any trouble.
This is going to be, to me, the interesting fight to see because obviously, Gabriel Fundora, the way she won that belt was one of the best performances that you're going to see from a very young challenger to becoming a champion. And you saw a lot of the similarities between her and her brother. They can use her range, but they don't need to. But Gabriela does have looks to be a more of a mean streak than Sebastian does in the ring.
And she's a better body puncher.
Yep, and
Far better inside game.
that's the that's the key difference between her and Sebastian. And like I say, it's an issue a lot when it comes to male fighters that have that size and reach advantage. They sometimes don't like to use it to the body. You don't see them in the mold of Antonio Margarito anymore, like in that sense. Because we have to remember, Antonio Margarito was a demon when it came to trying to go into the body and throwing uppercuts. A lot of the fighters that use range, like Fundora, Leo Santa Cruz, Ray Vargas, they haven't really taken advantage of that. We do not have that complaint with Gabriela. She is a demon when it comes to taking out the body. And while she has had those skills, we don't know how she's going to look now as a champion. Because she's also very young. And unfortunately, a lot of times, even that bright spotlight, even though you won a title, it may overwhelm some area, which is what gives Cruz a chance. Not much of one, but it does give her a chance because it also can be a case of Gabriela looking past an opponent. Because we know she has her eyes set on one Miss Marlon Esparza. And she may just see this as a little roadblock and getting out of the way, and that's the perfect recipe to get upset. I don't expect her to get upset, but there's always a possibility when a fighter is this young and it's their first defense. I expect Cruz to give her best effort. I said she is undefeated for a reason, but I think the spotlight will start getting better for Gabriela, and I think she should pull it out fairly easily.
Sorry, I was on mute. Also on that card, you got Oscar Collazo, WBO champion, at 105 pounds, making the second defense of that belt against Reyneris Guitierrez. I see the similar situation in the fight we just previously discussed. I think Collazo. Um, Here's the thing: is he exceptionally fast? No. Is he super athletic? No. But he's one of these kind of fighters who does everything well. Like Gabriela Fundora, Collazo to me is an excellent, excellent inside fighter. Power in both hands, southpaw just like Fundora, and he's in against a Guitierrez who again, a big step up in competition. Nothing on his resume. Um, I see nothing on his resume that suggests that he's going to beat that he can has anything for Collazo. Most of Gutierrez records wins are against fighters who either have 500 or sub 500 records. Um, Another showcase opportunity for Collazo as far as I see it.
Yeah, like you mentioned, a similar situation to what we have with Gabriel Fundora, but the key difference being that Collazo has at least already made one successful title defense. So he's gotten that mental hurdle out the way. And it's true, when it comes to Collazo, like I said, he does remind me in that sense of a as I said, Danny Garcia. You don't do one thing great, but you do everything well. And that at times is enough to be successful in boxing and get a good reign out of it. And that's what I expect from Collazo. Should be able to come in there. He knows 105 is starting to pop a little bit right now. The lower weight class is showing their teeth once again, and he wants to be a part of it. And I'm pretty sure he'll be able to succeed in that.
The main event of this card is Jaime Munguia versus John Ryder. Uh, Munguia coming off one of the better fights of 2023. The win over Derevyanchenko, right? Unanimous decision win, but Derevyanchenko gave Munguia held throughout, and I know folks in the boxing community who felt that Derevyanchenko should have got the win, should have been given the victory over Munguia against a Ryder who, how can I put it? How can I put this? Solid guy, right? We remember him for the fight against Canelo last year. A lot of people felt that Canelo was going to blow him over, but it didn't turn out to be the case. He was very confident, gave a good account of himself, right? He also has that win over Daniel Jacobs from nearly 2 years ago. People are waiting for Munguia to have a step up kind of fight, a big fight, a significant fight at 160, 168 pounds now. I don't know if we'll see that, but just like in the last fight with Derevyanchenko, I think that John Ryder has the opportunity to give Munguia a heck of a fight, and I wouldn't be one bit surprised if he would pull off what a lot of people consider a bit of an upset here.
This is actually pretty decent match when it comes to what you want Jaime Munguia to step up into, because this is, in this case, this is going to be the Benavides sweepstakes. I know, folks. I know people have mentioned it that if he wins, he'll probably get a shot at Canelo. I'm sorry, but until Canelo officially rescinds his statement, there's no point in talking Canelo when it
Just
comes
as
to
an
another
aside,
Mexico fight.
Canelo is likely to fight Maul Charlo next. So let's just get that out the way.
Yeah, there's that way. So, but like I said, this now then becomes the Benavides sweepstakes. And the main thing that Jaime does really well, like he's willing to bang to get his shots in, but he doesn't really do it that recklessly when you start to look at it. It's not a situation like Jared Hurd, where like he took a lot more shots than he needed to in order to get his offense in, and unfortunately, that did derail his career a bit. Now, obviously, also as well, Zanfer has made sure to match Munguia fairly safely, but now with somebody like John Ryder, somebody that's durable, somebody that has size, and somebody that, thanks to the Canelo fight, has seen the big spotlight of a big fight like this coming in,
And
it's not going to
tough
be intimidating.
and can take and tough and can take a decent shot.
Exactly. And that's probably what Munguia needs. He doesn't need somebody that's going to alter it. We need to see how Jaime does against somebody that can take his punch, can dish it out, and can make it a pretty murky fight into the deep waters. Like I mentioned, with Ryder, like he's used to this area. He's not blinded by the lights, but when he probably is a little bit long in the tooth in that area compared to Jaime. And I think Jaime understands the situation. He knows that people are really starting to question him whether he's actually the goods that he was. Remember, I had him when he was still very young fighter. I had him as prospect of the year because he showed that potential. And people are already starting to question whether that potential was real, obviously because of how Zanfer and Golden Boy, particularly Zanfer, have matched him. This is a step in the right direction. Get him clean, get him ranked by WBC, and if he has a good enough performance, Zanfer and Golden Boy can easily then call PBC because at that point, when Gale won it, Benavides has already said he would want it, and it would be a very fun fight to make. Even though I would think between those two, I would probably pick Benavides right now.
Benavides wipes the floor with him, but that's just my opinion.
We have to see. We have this. That's the reason when it comes to this fight. We have to see what version of Jaime Munguia comes into this stage. And Ryder has a chance. He has upset the apple cart before. We have to remember that when he fought Danny Jacobs, not a lot of people gave him much of a shot.
That's right.
And look what happened. And in that area. And then he wound up going into it. And not a lot of people thought that he would last the way he did against Canelo. And look what happened.
And a lot of people
So,
had him as the underdog, excuse me, against Zach Parker, and we saw how that ended as well. Um,
yep.
so again, this was I mentioned this is going to be a short show, and I think we're going to end it on that note. Um, Since Gail wasn't here this evening, I give her information for those who want to talk boxing with Gail. You can do so on social media at PR Pro San Diego. We'll repeat that again, PR Pro San Diego, for those who want to chop it up about the sweet science with her on social media. If you want to check out her writings, you can go to nyfights.com. You can check out her numerous articles over there. I'll go to you, Daniel, from 4Boxing News, and you subscriber. For those who want to talk the sweet science, for those who want to talk pro wrestling, for those who want to talk the NBA, especially with your Miami Heat and the recent trade that they just acquired, big trade with the Miami Heat, very good acquisition that they received. I think they're going to benefit from them, particularly when it comes to playoff time. For those who want to talk boxing, pro wrestling, Miami Heat, let the folks know where they can find you.
It's the same links everywhere, folks. On Twitter, Blue Sky, Spoutable, Threads, even it's Rockers99, RAWKZ99. Definitely catch me on there. And yeah, it's not. It wasn't the guard that a lot of fans wanted, but it's a very very good piece in Terry Rozier that the Miami Heat traded Kyle Lowry in the first round pick for, and it's definitely an upgrade of the position. Unfortunately, compared to Lowry, who Lowry's a good player.
He's
He
long in
has
the tooth.
shown
He's old. He should retire.
it's not so much in that sense that he should retire, but it's mainly that like he showed Parker, he has playoff experience, but he never fully bought in. He never really fully bought in to you could call it a fad, but to Heat culture. He never really fully bought in, and unfortunately, that showed late. And sometimes it doesn't work. Sometimes it doesn't work, but more than likely, if they don't find a trade partner, the Hornets will buy him out, and I would not be surprised to see Kyle Lowry in the Toronto Raptors jersey again this season.
Fair enough. Fair enough. For those who want to talk boxing, music, fitness, you know what it is with me on Twitter because I refuse to call it X. Brother JR at Brother JR76. For those who want to talk boxing, music, fitness, and fragrance, and check out usually my scent of the day. I hadn't put one up yet. I may not. If you want to talk boxing, music, fitness, and especially fragrance on IG and TikTok, you can do so, Brother JRSC. On the next episode, we will do a recap of the card in Phoenix, Arizona, headlined by Jaime Munguia, John Ryder, Oscar Collazo versus Reyneris Guitierrez on the undercard, as well as Gabriela Fundora making her first defense of the IBF Women's Flyweight title against Christina Cruz. And we will talk about the upcoming fights on February 3rd. The fight in Las Vegas on February 3rd between Conor Benn and Peter Dobson. Austin Ammo Williams is fighting on the undercard there on February 3rd in London. The grudge match, if you will, at light heavyweight between Dan Aziz, Joshua Buatsi on the undercard there. Fast rising prospect, emerging contender that has a lot of the hopes up of a lot of British fighters, a lot of UK boxing pundits, if you will. Adam Abzim, he's fighting on the undercard. Caroline Dubois is fighting on the undercard there. That may be a title fight as well. That fight, she may be fighting for the vacant WBC title. at 135 pounds in this fight. I have to look that up just to be sure. I just want to be accurate on that, as well as Ben Whitaker, another uh, prospect at 175 pounds who has the a lot of the hopes up for the UK boxing club, but he's fighting on that card. So kind of low key, loaded card with a lot of fast rising and highly thought of young UK fighters on there. Again, that's February 3rd in London on 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 Peacock. Um, I want to thank Daniel for joining us. For Daniel from Four Boxing News and the Inscriber. This has been episode 432 of the Pound for Pound Boxing Report. I am your host, Michael. We'll see you next time. Again, short episode, folks, but still, I'm here. Everyone have a good evening. Good night.